Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Queens on the Run. Queens on the Run is a Mexican action comedy that tells the story of a group of 4 women who are all best friends with each other. Marilu, Patty, Estrella, and Famela all reunite for a get-together after dealing with individual hardships and remember a road trip they had planned in high school. All of them decide to throw caution to the wind and set off on their road trip together after having sorted out their affairs as best as they can. While their trip starts off on the right foot, things take a turn as they become involved in various hijinks, most notably in crossing paths with a famous criminal. I almost wanted to write this movie off as a lame action flick with bad comedy, but after thinking about it, I decided it's not all that bad, although not great either. It's a simple-minded chick flick with a mature edge to its content that's meant to be enjoyed for what it is, and while there are still some flaws that come with this, it's competent enough in what it sets out to be. To start, I appreciate the 4 women all have at least some degree of uniqueness between them. They all have their own goals and issues, with Marilu wanting a break from her marriage and family, Patty wanting to get breast implants, Estrella longing for a loving relationship, and Famela wanting to have a kid and scatter her mom's ashes in the ocean. Some of these traits are more superficial than others, with Patty and Estrella in particular being played out for laughs, but just the fact that they're distinguishable from each other and have some semblance of an objective beyond just enjoying a road trip did make it a bit easier to connect with them. Now, while these 4 women are distinguishable from each other, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're great characters. They're all fairly basic in scope, and because there's 4 of them, there's not a lot of time given to address these characters' individual needs and wrap up their arcs in a satisfying way. At the end of the day, though, the girls all have great chemistry on screen together. There isn't too much forced drama between them, and they stick together through thick and thin. They truly feel like a group of best friends, which makes the events that take place around them more enjoyable as they deal with everything that unfolds. And indeed, there's a variety of events that take place during this road trip. The women casually go through a checklist of random things from performing strip teases, rescuing animals, and even declaring love for another person. It makes a movie story more fun to watch, to see all these things happen, as opposed to just going from one town to another without doing much. A lot of the events reminded me of another Mexican road trip movie I saw a few months ago called All the Places, in both good ways and bad. I like how the different shenanigans that occur bring the characters closer together, but at the same time, there's also a lack of originality involved with them. Much of these events are tied to the movie's comedy, which is its biggest selling point. Most of the humor consists of funny lines, ridiculous slapstick, and the general absurdity that occurs throughout the road trip. There were quite a few moments that had me chuckling here and there, though I wouldn't say it's laugh-out-loud funny. The parts that irritated me the most was when it was just the 4 girls screaming at things. The girls already tended to be exaggerated at times, so seeing them act even more outlandish in certain scenes made the movie feel like it was trying too hard to be funny. There are times when their brazenness does pay off though, usually in more lighthearted moments like when the girls taunt a car filled with male drivers or when they try to figure out how to fix a flat tire. The banter the girls exchange between themselves and other characters was also funny enough that I was able to appreciate some of the sillier scenes a little bit more than I would have without it. When the humor is more on the slapstick side of things, it doesn't work as much. Whether it involves physical slapstick, like getting whacked by a tree branch while driving, or a drunk mariachi band unable to perform, there were times when the comedy wasn't funny so much as groan-inducing. Outside of the comedy, there's also an element of danger thrown into the story about halfway through. As the girls travel, they get mixed up between law enforcement and a drug kingpin known as El Galavan, and this adds a certain level of tension to the story as a result, although it takes a while to happen. El Galavan's arc is teased at the beginning of the movie, and yet it feels like it doesn't have much presence in it until the final act, because of how much it bounces between this and the road trip itself. It almost feels like an afterthought that didn't really need to be in the movie. This being said, the whole Galavan arc does allow for more action-oriented scenes to pop up, which adds more entertainment value. Although these action scenes are pretty standard and don't involve more than a few gunfights and a single car chase, there are some amusing antics that come about in these scenes, and they are enjoyable enough on a smaller scale. The special effects, however, leave a lot to be desired. The set designs and computer-generated effects have a cheap look to them that often took me out of the movie. There's one scene involving a horde of chickens storming a traffic jam the girls are stuck in, and it's some of the most embarrassingly awful CGI I've seen in a movie in my life. Thankfully, there's a variety of environments throughout the rest of the road trip that make for good eye bleach following these moments. The girls' trip takes them from the countryside to urban areas and everything in between, and I just like admiring all of the scenery that they find themselves in. I was a bit disappointed with how the movie handled the supporting characters, specifically the male figures in the girls' lives back home. As with El Galavan, they don't do much other than try to find the girls, and they never even come close to doing it. Hell, their arcs aren't even resolved by the movie's end, except for Estrella's romance, which isn't exactly endearing. It's definitely a lot more focused focused on the female characters and being a story for women to enjoy, right down to the type of music and female empowerment situations that are utilized in the movie. I'm not a fan of the movie disregarding its other characters like this, but I am glad the movie did at least some justice to its central ones. And on that note, there is a key message to take away from this movie, in the form of its theme regarding freedom. All four women simply want to be freed from their circumstances and reclaim or rediscover themselves and who they are as women. It's a basic sentiment, but it makes sense considering the context of the character's situation, and it is nice to see some sort of message in place. Overall, Queens on the Run is a bog-standard chick flick that doesn't do much more than have a good time, and it does an okay job at being one. If you like action comedies and you want to watch one that's more geared toward women than men, you might enjoy checking this out. This movie isn't going to be anything more than a fun romp with some laughs and action, and in this sense it's alright. It's not something I'd go out of my way to watch myself, but for those looking for some queens to worship, this one should do the trick. What did you think about this movie? Did you like the dynamic of the female characters, or were you put off by some of its comedy? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Queens on the Run. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part where next time I review the Spanish horror comedy Phenomena. Bye bye!